before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest?
Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
And welcome to Before Nashville, where we're introducing the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And tonight I have joining me Alecia Aichelle. Alecia is originally from Canada. So I have another of our Canadian friends with me. I haven't even kept track of how many I've had, but I've had a few. And she's joining us tonight. Where are you at tonight? Are you back in Canada? Or are you in Nashville? Because you have residents in Nashville too, correct?
I am back in Canada right now.
Okay.
So, in Nashville, I live with friends down there, but I've been back in Canada since the summer just due to the pandemic, and got my little dog Cash with me, named after Cash. Yeah, Cash. So he's my little sidekick. So I thought I'd, bring him on for this.
What is he, a French bulldog? Is that what he is?
He is. He's a French bulldog. And the little man in black named after Johnny Cash.
How cute. Well, mine weren't in here earlier. We have our granddogger, as we call her, our daughter's dog, and she is a corgi. And then we have ours, which is a dog. The dog, but she's like a human trapped in a dog's body. I don't know. It beats all I've ever seen.
That is awesome.
I can't even spell the word ride. Okay. I can't even spell it because she will run to the back door knowing what I'm talking about.
That is a smart dog.
Yes. So she can win a doggy spelling bee.
Aw.
Keep it simple. So how are things going for you? I mean, I know you're back in Canada. You've been doing some stuff in Nashville, but the pandemic have you been back there the entire year? I
have been back in Canada since the summer.
Okay.
So it is, I guess it's coming up, I don't know, 9 months maybe that I've been back now in Canada. So 8-9 months. So it's been a while, and I thought I was literally going to be back for the summer. Back for a few months, and then heading back to Nashville. I left half my stuff down there and drove back up here. And just with the pandemic, I mean, we're still really not very far along up here in Canada, like you guys are down there. So there's still zero live music. And we actually just got put on another lockdown in Alberta 2 nights ago. So we're on lockdown again.
Oh.
So things are a little rough, but I mean, I'm making the most of it, and enjoying the spring weather that we've been getting, and doing a lot of stuff over Zoom and FaceTime. So definitely thankful for that.
And I was going to ask you about the weather up there, because I mean, right here, like today, it's a little chilly. The wind, I mean, it's like 60. I think it was 64 degrees at the highest today, but the wind was kind of cold, and I've got blood that's like water. So I can't get warm regardless. And but this weekend is supposed to be like up to 74, I think, on Sunday.
Lucky.
It was nearly 80 this past weekend. I was loving it. Now that I can deal with, but anything below about 75, not gonna do it. That's why I'm in a hoodie.
I love summer, and so I love the weather down in Nashville. And it's beautiful weather, but no, we've had a really cold winter up here. It actually hit minus 54.
Oh,
yeah, that is just ridiculous, right? And pretty much stay in. You don't really go out when it's that cold. But it's been pretty nice. It's been, so in Fahrenheit, it's been, we've been hitting the 60s the odd day. But then this morning woke up to snow again. The snow had melted and woke up to a blizzard. But now tonight the snow has melted again. So the weather is really up and down this time of year.
You get Missouri weather up there. The state motto of Missouri is, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute, it'll change.
That's what we say in Alberta.
It's everywhere. Mother Nature she can't get her hormones are all out of whack or something.
Yeah, I was like, Mother Nature, not cool. I was going to go for an 8-kilometer run this morning, which is about 5 miles, 5-6 mile run. And got up, looked outside, and I'm like, nope. Mother Nature, you are not cool.
Not happening.
Yeah, not in the snow.
I got to say this, because a 5 mile run, I get up every morning and I go, nope, not happening.
Even when it's 70 and sunny, hey?
Right. If it's 70 and sunny, it's not happening then either. Now I'm going to take the truck, but I'm going to be able to get back. If I run 5 miles, that's 10 miles round trip, 5 miles there and I'm done. So it's like, I'm never getting home.
Yeah, you're stuck.
We don't have Uber.
Right.
So it's pretty bad. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, you grew up in Canada. We'll get into the transition to Nashville because you said you stay with friends. So you don't actually live in Nashville. You don't have a place there yet, but you've been in and out of there for a little bit. And we'll talk about that later on. But tell me about growing up. What was life for Alecia like as a child?
Yeah, so I grew up in British Columbia, which is our furthest west province. So I grew up in a place called Kelowna, BC, in the Okanagan. It's about 4 hours inland from Vancouver, and really beautiful there, beautiful weather, wineries, kind of the California of Canada, they call it.
Okay.
And where I grew up, country music was not cool. I was really different. I definitely wasn't the cool kid in school because I was this country girl who loved horses, and I would hang out with horses all the time. I grew up in the city, but we lived kind of at the edge, and we had like an orchard and this horse pasture right beside us.
Okay.
So every day after school, I'd walk my dog there, hang out with the horses. I'd be writing songs and singing. And my parents introduced me to country music when I was probably 7 or 8. And I just fell in love with it. And so, I've always stuck with my guns and just know that I loved country music and that this is what I wanted to do.
So when you say that you weren't the cool kid, because you like country music, there's a country scene in Canada. Why? What was the difference? I mean, was it more everybody's listening to pop music or something, or what?
Yeah, just in the city that I grew up in was very non-country. And moving to Alberta is very country. Alberta's awesome. But now there's more of a country scene kind of everywhere in Canada for sure. But just as a kid growing up, it was just not really in school. It wasn't cool, and it wasn't really the cool thing, I guess. But yeah, I always just stuck to my guns, and I grew up singing in church. So I grew up singing from a young age. The first time I sang in public, I was about 4 years old, and it was a Christmas Eve service. And the pastor called all of us kids up on stage, and we sang Away in a Manger. And then he said, "Does anybody know the second verse?" And I'm like, "I know it." And so I got to sing it on microphone. And it was a big church, about 2,000 people. And so that was my first time singing in front of a crowd. And ever since then, I just knew I loved to sing. And I grew up singing for my family. And my parents put me in classical piano lessons when I was 8 and voice lessons as a teenager. And just really grew up singing in church and school and taking every opportunity I could to sing, and then actually took music in college. So continued it on in my education, and was told actually in college that I would never sing again. So I have quite a story that I've been through, and I'm not sure if you've read about this.
Right, yeah.
But
before we transition to that, let me ask another question, because I do want to get into that because I think it's an amazing story. But when you were talking about, first off, Canada does have a huge country scene. There's some festivals up there that I think you've been a part of a few of them, and things like that. And you've gotten to really hone your craft, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But when was the first time that you said, maybe you turned to your parents and you said, "Mom, Dad, I want to be a country music singer"? When did you first realize that was your dream?
As a teenager, I'd say as a child, I kind of always knew in my heart that's what I wanted to do. And I was always singing. And I think as a teenager, probably about 15 or 16 was when and I'd been singing a lot and doing a lot of singing at church and at my school and a lot of performing, and where I just said, this is really what I want to do with my life. And they were 100% on board. They've always been 100% supportive and encouraging. And I'm very thankful for that because I know not everybody has that. So it's definitely a huge blessing.
So what kind of background did you come from as far as your family? Because you said you kind of lived outside of town near, was the pasture one that you and your that your family owned, or was that a neighbor's?
No, so we were in the city, but kind of at the edge of the city.
Right.
And it was neighbors that owned the orchard and the pasture that I would go to every day to visit the horses. And we had a big yard. We had like 9 cherry trees and peach trees and apricot trees, walnut trees. So it was a huge yard. But no, I grew up in the city.
Okay.
Every summer we would go out to Saskatchewan, which is 2 provinces away, to my grandpa's farm and spend time out there and spend some time on an uncle and aunt's farm. And so I was kind of a city girl with a country girl at heart. So I would say I'm definitely a mix of those two.
And which would you say, I mean, like, is the most prevalent, the city or the country?
You know what? That's a tough one. I mean, I've lived in the country. Before I moved to Nashville, I was living out in the country for a few years, built a house out there and had a farm and, a horse and goats and everything. And I think, that's really hard. I'd say like I'm such a mix of the two. But if I had a choice, my choice will always be to live in the country. I just love the country life. I love fishing. I love camping and hiking and just getting outside. I get a lot of my inspiration from the outdoors. So, I love to get like dolled up and go out for a night on the town. And I love the city and I love Nashville. Nashville is, in my opinion, the best city. But there's something about the country. So I'm probably lean a little more to the country, but I'm pretty close, pretty even, I'd say.
Well, and with you writing, I mean, you were talking about doing a lot of Zoom writes and things like that. Who are some of your writing influence, the people that you look up to and you go, and that's the kind of songs I want to write?
Yeah, well, there are so many writers that I look up to. One writer in particular is Carolyn Dawn Johnson, and she's a Canadian who lives down in Nashville, and she's had, huge hits and written huge hits for others. And I've looked up to her since I was a kid. And I actually got the honor of writing with her in Nashville last year. Wow. So that was a huge dream come true. It was kind of surreal. And I've known her for a while, and she is just the sweetest person. Mm-hmm. And that was an amazing experience. And other writers that I look up to, I mean, there's so many, it's impossible to name them all. There's so many, and so many that I've been able to write with who have mentored me in it as well. But some of the big ones, I mean, I love Shania's writing. I think she's an incredible writer, and she's someone who I've been a huge fan of since I was really little and, grew up singing her stuff. And I love Dolly, and Dolly has, she's written, they say, over 3,000 songs. I mean, she's incredible. So there's just so many, though, that writers and artists that I look up to.
It's so hard. Like you said, it is hard to pick, like the ones that you really look up to, because there are so many great writers, and they could be, male writers, female writers. And I'm not a songwriter, but I love the writing of like you said, Carolyn Dawn Johnson. I've listened to some of the stuff that she's written. Dolly, of course, everybody's listened to the songs that Dolly's written, and the one that comes to my mind the most is Coat of Many Colors. She wrote that about her mom making her a coat when she was growing up, and how she would just take life and her life and put it into every song, and it would touch people.
Yeah.
And then you've got like Hardy, if you want to look at modern day writers, you've got Hardy, you've got Natalie Hemby, you've got Maren Morris, you've got Miranda. I mean, they all write, whether it's for themselves or somebody else. And there's just so many of them that are out there. Now, as far as performance wise, who do you look up to?
Performance wise, I love Miranda Lambert. I think she's just awesome. She puts on a great show. She's an incredible writer, like you said, and a great person. She's also a dog person and an animal person like me. So I love her. And Shania, another one that, she hasn't been doing as much now, but back in the day, I mean, she put on incredible shows. I've seen her live twice, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
She has so much energy. And I love her as a performer. And there's so many. I mean, I love Eric Church. There's so many. And then I look up to a lot of the old school ones that aren't around anymore, like Johnny and June, and even Elvis, CCR. I've got quite a vast kind of musical range, I guess, of different influences.
Right. And that's one of the things that I love about country artists because you have to love it all, and it doesn't all have to be country. I mean, I think a great artist is one that's very well rounded in whatever genres they enjoy. It could be taking influences from pop music, taking influences from R&B or even rap or hip hop and putting them into and then country, whether it's classic country or however you want to term it. I see country as having so many what I call subgenres. It's not even funny. I mean,
there are.
and so if you classified your music in one of those country subgenres, what would you say it was?
I mean, that's hard because I have quite a mix. Like if you look at my Golden album, my only kind of full-length album that I released in 2016, it's very country. It's got a lot of fiddle and pedal steel, banjo, mandolin, lots of piano. I play piano, so there's lots of piano on that album, and it's very country. And then you look at some of my newer stuff, and it's a little bit more crossover, kind of country, like modern country, country pop. And I enjoy writing and singing all of it. So I don't know if I fit into one specific category. I think it just totally depends on the song.
Right. And now, again, I do want to talk about the thing that we discussed earlier, but another quick question, because you've been going down to Nashville. If my timeline and my math is right, which I'm not a math whiz, that's why I do radio and podcast. Because I'll never be a physicist. But about 5 years you've been traveling back and forth to Nashville. Is that correct? Or has it been longer and it's just some information that
it's been longer? My first trip down to Nashville was in 2009, I believe.
Okay.
And then I didn't go for a few years. And then I was back ever since 2013. I've been going a couple times a year. Usually 2-3 times a year to record and write and perform and network. And then last year, I actually got to live down there for 9 months. So I've been going down quite a bit for quite a few years now and just fell in love with the city the first time I went.
What's your favorite? Have you played a lot of the Nashville venues?
I have.
What's your favorite one to play?
Okay, so my favorite that I've ever played, and it was just incredible, was the Bluebird Cafe.
Okay.
I mean, it's iconic. And I got to do a writer's round there and play 6 original songs. And it was great because one of the songs that I played, we had literally written the day before the show.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So fresh and so brand new. And, just the feeling in there, knowing all the legends that came before that actually played there.
Yeah.
When you sit in that circle, you just feel just kind of this presence, and you just feel I felt so blessed to be there. And I remember being so nervous to perform there because it's the legendary Bluebird Cafe, right? And once I got there and just got started, literally just a few bars into the first song, I just felt this peace, and I just was right into it. And it's really cool in there because they have that hush policy. So everyone's quiet. It's all about the music. It's all about the song. And I just love that venue.
Is it kind of, would you think that if, you get the opportunity to play the Grand Ole Opry, would you say that is kind of like the rung below on the step to the Grand Ole Opry?
I would say, because the Grand Ole Opry is the top of my list to play. I mean, that's a dream. I've been going to the Opry ever since my first trip to Nashville. And it's my dream. I mean, I think it's most country singers' dreams to play the Opry. It's such an honor to be asked to play there and, stand in that circle and share your songs. And so that definitely is at top of my list.
Now, have you got to be at both of the Opry sites, the Ryman and the Gaylord Opry House?
I have. I've taken in shows at both, and it's amazing. The Ryman has such amazing sound.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool. And it was cool because I was there for a Vince Gill and Amy Grant Christmas, and it was incredible. And on the break, I went and I was like exploring a little bit with the Ryman. And I went and I went into one of the stairwells and they had these rocking chairs. And I was like, this is so cool. And there was nobody around. So I just sat in this rocking chair and started singing. And it was so cool because there was no one around, and it just, the acoustics in there were so amazing. And I was like, I can say I've sang in the Ryman. But it was just such a cool feeling in there. And again, just knowing all the greats that have come before, that have been in there and have performed in there and spent so much time in there. There's just such a cool feeling, and it's really hard to describe.
So did you video when you were sitting in the stairwell in the rocking chair?
I didn't, but I do have a picture.
Okay, well, that works.
Yeah.
That's really awesome, though. Now let's move forward, because you were told at one point in your life that you're never going to sing again, and you talked about that, and that was while you were in college.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that doctors told you you're never going to sing again?
Yeah, so that happened. I had just graduated high school, and I was moving to Alberta to attend a college music program as a voice major with scholarships. And I just went in for a routine doctor's appointment, and my doctor found a lump, found a tumor on my thyroid gland.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite big. They did a bunch of tests, and it was quite large. And they did biopsies and numerous tests, and everything came back conclusive. So they didn't know if it was cancer or not. And they said, we have to remove it because, if it is cancer, clearly it's got to come out. And if it's not, it could turn into cancer. So I had the surgery. It was August 8th. And I had the surgery, and this was just before college was starting. I graduated high school. And they told me, everything will be fine. They knew I was a singer. They said, we'll be extra careful. They took extra time in the surgery. And during the surgery, they had to remove half of my thyroid gland because the tumor was kind of octopused around it. So they removed half of the thyroid gland as well. And I woke up with no voice. And I was told, it's just swelling. It'll come back in a few days. A week went past, still no voice. I had like this tiny, tiny little whisper. And they said, it's normal. They gave me all these different medications and stuff to take, and saying it was just swelling. And I moved out to Alberta. So I moved about 9 hours from where I grew up to attend a college. Didn't know anyone, started college, couldn't talk. Everyone thought I was super shy and quiet. And things just weren't normal, right? Like my voice was not coming back. So my vocal coach sent me to a throat specialist in Red Deer. And it was then that they put the tube down with the camera on through my nose and to look and see what was going on. And they found that my right vocal cord was completely paralyzed. And the vocal cords attach kind of like a V, and they move together to create the sound as the air goes through. And so my right vocal cord was just laying there completely limp. I saw it on the screen. Oh, my. And my left vocal cord was trying to do all the work to move over to the right to make the noise. But all I was getting was a tiny whisper, and sometimes kind of this high-pitched Mickey Mouse kind of weird voice if I would try to really push it. And so they determined that the recurrent laryngeal nerve that makes the vocal cords move was severed, resulting in paralysis. So I was told right then and there I would never sing again. I would never talk again. And I asked the specialist in my little whisper, there's got to be something I can do. And he said, there's nothing. And I said, so all I can do is pray for a miracle. And he looked at me, he said, what the hell else can you do? Because, he was just very blunt, very sensitive. And I left there just in complete shock and devastated. I mean, I was bawling, and I was really upset, and I have a really strong faith, and inside I was screaming at God inside, and I was like, why would you give me this gift and this passion and then take it? I just didn't understand. And I remember saying to God, if you're not going to give me back my voice, take it, take the passion, because I can't live with this passion to do this if I can't do it. So take the passion if you're not going to give it back. And I just felt this peace come over me pretty early on. I just felt this peace that, I'm going to get my voice back. It's going to be healed. There's going to be a miracle in this. And I just had to believe, and I had to be patient and trust God. And it was definitely hard. It was the hardest trial of my life. but I learned a lot through it. And 3 months after, my speaking voice actually came back. So I went back to that same specialist, and he walked in and he said, "Hi, Alecia, how are you?" And I said, "Good, how are you?" And he looked at me and he's like, "Your voice, you're talking." And he was completely shocked. So he fumbled around and got the camera and looked, and my vocal cords were moving. And he could not believe it. And he said, "Scientifically, this can't be explained." And I said, "Well," I said, "I have a really strong faith." And I was praying and believing in a miracle. And I said, thousands of people across Canada were praying. People I didn't even know were praying for me,
Right.
family and friends, churches. And I said, I just believed in a miracle. And he got tears in his eyes and he said, "You got to come back in a few months. I want to follow this." I went back to him in another 3 months. And at that point, he said, "Your vocal cords are 100%. You can start singing again." So pretty incredible. It's definitely, no doubt about it, a miracle. And, it taught me a lot. It really made my faith real to me, because I grew up in church and I grew up with faith, but it's really different when you actually go through something, you go through a trial like that really, really tests your faith. And for me, that really made my faith real and really showed me how real God is. And just, how much he wants a relationship with all of us, and how he, sometimes things happen in our lives for reasons to teach us things, or to grow us, and areas sometimes that we don't even realize that we need growth in. So that definitely is what drives my passion as an artist and a singer, because I know what it's like to lose it. And I just feel like it's such a gift, and it's something that I want to use well. I want to use it for a good purpose.
That's such an amazing story, though, because I cannot, never being in that situation. I know people probably wish that, I don't want to say it that way, but they wouldn't mind if I lost my voice, but because they get tired of hearing me talk, but that's what I get paid to do day in and day out. But I cannot imagine as a singer, and like you say, the gift that you were given is just taken away with, really no explanation as to where the tumor came from, what brought it up, what caused it to grow. And
Exactly.
if it were me, I have so many questions, and I know you had those too. And I'm not going to, put out my questions, because it's just not my place. But I'm very, very grateful and thankful that you are back to where you are, because your music is really good. Your voice is good. You've got a softness to your voice, and I don't know what it sounded like before, but it's amazing. So when once you recovered,
Mhm.
how long was it before you jumped back in with both feet and said, "Okay, I'm grabbing the bull by the horns and we're going for this"? Did you wait a little bit and strengthen? Did you have to strengthen your vocal cords before you did that? Or was it just like, "I'm going for it because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring"?
Yeah, I think I definitely kind of tiptoed back in a little bit, because I was a little bit nervous. I
Mhm.
was a little bit nervous, and I hadn't sang in so long. So I did, go to my vocal coach in college, and we kind of came up with a plan to kind of ease me back into it, because I didn't want to just all of a sudden, like, damage something, or I
Right.
hadn't used my vocal cords in so
Right.
long. I did kind of ease my way in, but I remember my first show back was pretty cool. It was on the main stage in the college, and they had me perform, play on piano. I play and sing, and they had me play on piano and sing a song on the main stage in a big show. And it was just such a cool feeling, and everybody knew what I'd been through, and everyone was just like, "Wow." Like, everyone, just because they had been there on that journey with me, all the other students and the instructors. And so it was a really cool feeling. And just the support that I got there too was incredible.
So moving forward and moving on to, like, you know, the fact that you've got your voice back and now you're starting to get, you're getting back into things. When you're writing, you talked about writing on Zoom and stuff like that. How many songs do you think that you write in a week?
In a week, right now, it really depends, because sometimes, I write on my own a lot too. So I'm not
Right.
just writing co-writes. When I was living in Nashville, I was writing songs every day, which was awesome. Up here, I'm probably writing a few a week. It depends how many co-writes I have and how much time. I mean, sometimes I teach music as well, so I keep very busy with that, and most of the lessons are online right now. But probably averaging a few a week. But when I was in Nashville, I was writing every day, because that's what I was there for. So I was writing every day and then performing a lot of the evenings or going to shows in the evenings. And yeah, it was pretty fun.
What do you like most? And I've asked this to several artists, and actually they have different varying opinions, but do you like writing in a room with somebody else or the Zoom writes better?
Honestly, I love the face-to-face in person because you just feel the energy more, I guess.
Right.
And I love that. And sometimes on Zoom and Skype and stuff, sometimes there's a tiny bit of delay too. So it can make it a little hard at times if you're like both singing or if you're both playing an instrument at the same time. So sometimes it has its challenges, but I mean, honestly, I'm thankful for the technology because it's allowed me to continue writing with writers in Nashville while I'm up here in Canada. And we're on very strict lockdown right now up here. So I've been writing with writers right here in Alberta over Zoom. And it's cool because it's funny because it's like we're in the same city or we're only an hour apart, but we're writing online because of the restrictions right now. So it's definitely been a blessing to be able to do it that way. But if I could choose, I would much rather be in person.
Right. I think, and I've said this before, I think with the way that Nashville has kind of wrapped its arm around technology through this whole pandemic thing. I mean, the technology's been there for a little bit, but it's like they didn't use it. And I understand why, because the energy when you're in the room with somebody is a lot different.
It is.
But it's like an artist I interviewed said, I can write with people even before I could write with people in California. There may be a schedule conflict and we know we want to write, but we can't get from point A to point B at the same time.
Yeah.
So I just think Nashville has really embraced that technology a lot. I mean, going to the online concerts and stuff like that was just, and I don't know who claims the brainchild status of that, but whoever it was really good. I mean, that was a great thing. Have you had the opportunity to do any of those as well?
No, I haven't done the online. So last year in the pandemic, I was able to do a few in Nashville before I came back to Canada, a couple of like outdoor patio shows and drive-up shows, which were pretty cool. And then in Canada in the summer, I was able to do a couple of outdoor shows. I was in a parade for Canada Day where I was being pulled on a truck, like on a big trailer, and got to perform all through a city. And there was 5 of us different performers that had different routes. So we covered like this city. And that was really fun, performed for an hour and a half straight, just driving through, and it's pretty cool. And thankfully the weather held out, but we weren't allowed bands. So because of the restrictions, it had to be just solo. And so it was just myself with my piano and my guitar and just alternating instruments and, and did some stuff like that last summer, but there's been nothing full band. And my band and I were talking about doing something online, full band, like making it work. And then we just got put on lockdown again. So we can't even get together. So we have a lot of restrictions still going on. So it kind of limits us, but.
Right. Well, hopefully, I mean, things are starting to open back up here and in the US, and who knows? I mean, I don't think we still understand the coronavirus. So I don't think that there's, they can honestly say 6 months down the road, it's going to be gone. It's like I told my wife, we both had the vaccine and have our little card, AKA passport, whatever you want to call it. And we were talking about getting it laminated. And I said, I don't know if they want you to laminate it because I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a booster shot every year, kind of like a flu shot that you get every year.
Yeah. So they want to be able to write that on there. And
right.
Yeah, see, we don't have very many vaccinations up here yet. We're very, very far behind the US.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why like travel's restricted, and that's why we're on lockdown again because there was now another outbreak, and
Right.
so we're definitely quite a bit behind you guys. And I'm talking to all my friends in like Tennessee and Texas and all over the states, and we're all like, yeah, we're touring, we're performing. We're so lucky.
And you're going, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear it.
And they're like, just come back. And I'm like, well, I can't. Like, we're not really allowed to travel. So,
I know and they put you in such a, I mean, it's got to be disheartening because your passion is to be out performing, is to be out singing and doing your craft, so to speak. And you can't do it because of this whole thing. And,
yeah.
I mean, like Eric Church just announced he's getting ready to do a concert. And,
Yeah.
I think it starts the latter part of this year and goes into 2022. And although some things have been pushed back to 2022, unfortunately, CMA Fest, Kenny Chesney's big stadium tour, which I was hoping to go see, that's fallen through again.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting to see it. But yet when I talk to artists that are from Canada who are up there, they're
Mhm.
not the ones that are in Nashville,
Mhm.
but it's like it's just unfair. I don't know how else to say it. It's just unfair
Yeah.
because you guys can't do what you love to do. I mean, it's like if I had to try to do this without a camera and a microphone, I mean, it's like something's been taken away that I love to do and I can't do it. And so I just hate that for you guys.
Yeah. It's definitely the stage is where I feel the most alive. So
Right.
definitely, been a challenge not performing and just kind of not really feeling myself, or like a piece of myself is a little bit gone right now because
Mhm.
has been no performing. So definitely missing that. Definitely can't wait to get back on stage. I think, oh my goodness, my band and I are ready to hit the road running. And initially, like with me moving to Nashville, I was still planning to come home back to Canada every summer. My band and I are usually super busy with festivals and rodeos and fairs. And so
Right.
my plan is to come back every summer for a couple months, just, hit it hard with the band, do tons of shows, and then go back to Nashville. Because in Nashville, it's been more the singer-songwriter stuff I've been doing down there. And I love performing with a full band. So that was the plan, but then the pandemic kind of threw a curveball at everything.
I know.
Yeah. So, but I've got hope that things will get back to normal somewhat. I mean, they might not be exactly as they were, but I do believe in just staying positive and, what else can we do through this, right?
Right. Right. Now, there's one bright spot if there's a bright spot in here at all, because about what's it been, uh 15, 16 days ago, 17 days ago, you released a new single,
Yes.
a little over 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. March 22nd.
And
So yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
now, that song itself, how, I mean, I see how it's performing on Spotify and the streaming and it's doing really well. How is it performing in Canada and even in the US? Are you getting a lot of feedback from both sides of the border as to how it's doing?
Yeah, so I released it just in Canada through the MDS to Canadian Country Radio, but I've also been promoting it worldwide to a lot of different stations. So I've actually been having really good feedback worldwide, overseas, Australia, UK, Europe, and down in the States as well. And Canadian Country Radio has been really supportive. I've had a lot of I've been really busy with radio interviews, which has been awesome. I miss going into the stations. I would go on radio tour before and just drive and visit a whole bunch of stations in a day. And I love that. So it's all been over phone, but it's still really fun. And it's been really well received up here. And I've had good feedback and really good feedback from some other artists and writers too, which always means a lot.
Right. Well, if you would allow me to play the song, and it's called Household.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to hear the backstory because I'm super excited for you to share that with our listeners. But we're going to get into the song. This is called This is called Household, and it's from Alecia Aichelle on Before Nashville, which, by the way, is being brought to you by Go-Go Tuners. If you're looking for tuners, go check them out, gogotuners.com. They got a great technology called Green You're In, Red You're Out. Easy to use, easy to tune a guitar. So really awesome stuff there. gogotuners.com. Here's Alecia Aichelle and Household on Before Nashville.
Out in the country, at least a mile down from that exit off the highway, there's a wooden rail fence that leads to a gravel driveway on a piece of land from the ground up. We use timber beams and bricks to build our dreams. A foundation so strong it could weather anything, or so it seemed. When I was with you, it was a bedroom with a view, more than wine on a back porch under the full moon. It was dancing in the kitchen, it was making plans and wishing. I thought we were building a household. But now there's nothing in this house left to hold. Now it's just a hallway, no pictures hang of you and me, with nothing but a memory. An empty space and every move I make is echoing what we used to be. When I was with you, it was a bedroom with a view, more than wine on a back porch under the full moon. It was dancing in the kitchen, it was making plans and wishing. I thought we were building a household. But now there's nothing in this house left to hold on to, 'cause I can't hold you anymore. When I was with you, it was a bedroom with a view, more than wine on a back porch under the full moon. We were dancing in the kitchen, we were making plans and wishing. I thought we were building a household. But now there's nothing in this house left to hold. Out in the country, at least a mile down from that exit off the highway.
That's Alecia Aichelle. It's called Household on Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And the song itself, now, if I'm correct, and I may have you made this mixed up with another one, but did you played piano and you did background vocals on that song?
I did, yeah.
That is amazing. I don't know how you got to sound like the guys in the background, but you do a heck of a job.
No, that part was those added vocals in the bridge. That wasn't me. I did the main harmonies, but no, the added vocals in the bridge was Johnny Gasparik, my producer up here, that produced the song.
I thought, well, that's pretty good. No, I knew it was, and I just had to pick on you for that. But so tell me a little bit about the song, because I know that from what I've discovered about the song itself, it's very close to your heart and very real to you. Now, you share what you feel like you can, and when you can't, just say, okay, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. This song is very real. It's very honest for me, very raw. So the inspiration behind the song, just before I moved to Nashville last year, I was in a long-term 5-year relationship that ended very unexpectedly. It was very devastating. And we had built a house. We had bought 25 acres of land out on a farm. We had built a house from the ground up and literally built it ourselves. And so it was a lot of work, a lot of heart and hard work goes into that. And really thought that we were building our future together. Thought we had kind of the same goals and dreams and plans for life. And that ended up ending, and the love that held that household together and that relationship together fell apart. And I was very devastated. And it actually happened right before a trip to Nashville. I was going to Nashville a week after to record a couple new tunes and do some writing. And so when I was in Nashville, I said, you know what? It's always been my dream to live here. I've been going down for how many years, a couple times a year. And I said to God, I was like, you know what, God, if you want me down here, open the door. And if you don't, that's fine. But if you want me down here, open the door. And it was really cool because the way that he opened the door was, it was no question about it, God. And just with a place to live, with friends, and everything fell into place. And so I said, okay, I'm going to move, and picked up the pieces of my broken heart and moved to Nashville and turned my heartbreak into songs. And Household is one of those songs. And I co-wrote it with Kelly Seidel. She's an amazing writer in Nashville. And my producer in Nashville, who I do all my recording with down there, Daniel Dennis, he introduced Kelly and I. And her and I wrote this song in less than 2 hours. It was one of those songs that just came together. And it was really cool because she had this idea of household. And as we got talking and I was sharing my story, she was like, this is like this idea I've had for a while. She said, this is you. This is what you just went through. And so we wrote it, and literally describing, the house was out in the country, and literally describing, the actual house that we built. There was timber beams and and all that stuff. And after we finished the song, I just knew it was something special. And I had the chance to perform it at some writers' nights down there and had really good feedback. And it was a hard song to perform at first because it was very raw and real to me. Now it's been coming up on 2 years since that relationship ended. And so, my heart has healed, but it took a long time. Definitely the time I was in Nashville. And then when I moved back, I realized, oh, my heart's not fully healed. And we sold that house, and I had kind of a surreal moment after I had recorded this song back in February. I was driving in the country and literally drove past the road to turn off to the house while I was listening to the final master that my producer up here sent me. And I was like, this is crazy. and I got a little bit emotional, but I just realized, there's a lot of heart in this song, and I definitely am very honest and real in it. And it was a very hard thing to go through, but I know, looking back now, I know that it wasn't God's plan for my life, and God took me out of that relationship for a reason. And I've written a ton of songs about it, and that's what we do as writers, is write our heart. And I think for me too, it's helped me be more honest in my writing. Going through that, I kind of got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to hold back. I'm just going to write about if I've been through heartbreak and the hard things I've been through, some really tough things in my life. And I finally am at a place where I'm starting to just write very honestly about the things I've been through, and knowing that it might help somebody else or it might encourage someone else, and just not being afraid to share my story. So Household is very raw and real. And I've already had a few people tell me, man, I can relate so well to that. And, so that always means a lot when others can relate and when it helps other people too. That's
one of the things about country music that I love. And I got to be honest with you, when you're telling that story, my heart's breaking for you. And I don't get emotional, but that often, but that's just like, I can't imagine. This is the way I look at songwriters. Songwriters are the smartest people in the world. And the reason I say that is because therapy is so expensive.
Yes.
And you use songwriting for your therapy. Now, not to say that some folks don't do both, but primarily your therapy comes from your songwriting. And so it saves you a lot of money. I mean, just to kind of make light of it in a way, but still it's serious, but it's just amazing. What I think about, I think back on things in my life and my tragedies, and I go, I mean, I'm not a songwriter. I can't sit down and write that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I could write it out and give it to somebody that could transform it maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
But myself, I couldn't sit down and come up with the melody and the flow and everything, and I've talked to so many songwriters about their it seems like there's a basic process to writing a song, but everybody has a different method of getting to that basic process. If that makes any sense whatsoever. On my side, I'm going, that was a really dumb thing to say.
It's true though. I mean, we all have kind of different ways of writing, and for me, when I write, it's different quite often. I mean, sometimes I write when I'm driving, and I'll be out driving and I'll get an idea in my head and then I'll stick it in my phone. And other times I'm out in the country. When I lived in the country, I'd take my guitar and sit on the tailgate of a truck and go sit by my horse, and I would write and be just inspired by nature. And oftentimes I sit down at the piano because piano is like a part of me, and I'll just start playing and come up with these melodies and ideas, and then the lyrics flow. And I also journal a lot, and sometimes I'll journal out just my heart and pour my heart into my journal and what I'm feeling. And then I'll read it and be like, that's a song.
Yeah.
Wow, a song can come from that. And sometimes too, I write, stories of others. And I've been really writing lately, also just things that I think need more attention, like just kindness and caring for others. And just doing like random acts of kindness and finding ways to encourage others. And so I've been trying to write a little bit more about that kind of stuff and kind of tying in some of the hard things that I've been through, knowing that it might encourage other women and other people in general. I just think that's what music's all about. It's connecting.
There's just so much positivity that needs to be expressed in the world these days.
Yes.
And it's not, I see the news in the US, but it's not just here. It's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. And I mean, it's just amazing to me how there are so many hateful, disgruntled people in the world. It just blows my mind.
It's like if everyone could just be kind and loving, realize that we're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all the same, and we all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. And if everyone could just be kind to everyone else, regardless of differences or different beliefs or different opinions, the world would be so much easier.
Yeah. I'm kind of going off the beaten path here, but that just brought and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but I remember reading a book as a youngster, and it may have been Tom Sawyer. But they are out, and it's like there's one or two white kids and then a black kid, and the black kid gets cut, and the white kids look at him, and it's like, your blood's red.
Oh.
We all bleed the same. We're all, like you say, we're all the same on the inside. Yeah. If you take away the skin, you're not going to be able to tell, if you're not a forensic doctor that knows, the ins and outs, but the typical person would never be able to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I feel like I'm about to, start preaching here, and I don't mean to, but it's like, that's just one of the things I've tried to keep in my mind. And I was telling you today, I had a really rough day today. And that just kind of, one of those things where it comes to my mind about how we treat one another.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess there's a little bit of guilt there. Probably ought to be a lot more. But anyway, so let's talk, because there's something about the song that I found out that I want to share. And I always do this in a fun kind of way. All right. So are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
So I love some good 80s music too, okay? And 90s. But this is it's a segment that I call I Heard a Rumor, and I love this because it's kind of one of those things. Sometimes you can get like the dirt on people. But the thing that I wanted to bring up about Household was the video. I mean, you're getting ready to film the video, and it's not just the video, it's got a purpose, if that makes sense.
So we already filmed the video a couple weeks ago, but it's not out yet. And it was really cool. It was such a blessing. So I was asked to team up with Randy Rich Films, who's an awesome videographer up here. Sorrento Custom Homes, they're a home builder. And they built the 2021 Red Deer Hospital Lottery Dream Home. So it's a big charity dream home people buy tickets for to try to win. And they raise a lot of money for a hospital here. And so a really great cause, and the home is beautiful. So they had me in the home and featured myself with my song Household for the music video. So we filmed it in the beautiful, big, open, like kitchen living room. It's just gorgeous. And had me performing the song, and then had me throughout the house kind of acting it out a little bit and showing off different areas of the house. And Cash here even makes an appearance.
Oh, wow. Look at him. Get his SAG-AFTRA card now.
He's just a dapper little dude here. But he got to be in the video, and he actually crawled into my guitar case, which was really cute. And then we have him walking through the house with me, right?
Oh. He's a good-looking fella.
Yeah, he's a
I the reason that I love the charitable aspect of that is, you know, I've worked with St. Jude's, which is a big country music, type of organization, and they do their dream home, I think is what it's called. And I've been involved in those, and I've seen some of those houses and stuff. And I just love that aspect. And so for you to do that, and then as I was reading, now you can find that video. If you want to find the video, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, and it's also on IGTV.
It will be. Yeah, it's not out quite yet, but it should be in the next week or so, I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah, it does say right here, will be available, but yeah. I'm excited to see it too, because I haven't seen, the footage yet. But that's always interesting, right? To see yourself in a video after you're filming it. But it was a lot of fun to film, and really great. Randy's great to work with, and just definitely a blessing that they asked me to be part of that project. And I love that kind of thing, and I love anytime I can do anything with any charities too. I'm big on World Vision sponsoring children and Samaritan's Purse and a lot of different organizations and animal rescues as well. St. Jude's, I would love to be involved with when I'm back in the U.S. Such a great cause, and I love kids. I'm an auntie. I have 11 nieces and nephews, and I also teach music. I don't have kids of my own, and I maybe won't ever because of my career, but I feel like I have a lot of kids with all my nieces and nephews and all my students. Right.
And I love them. I love kids. And so I love whenever I get to, sing for kids or pull kids up on stage, or sometimes when I'm performing with my band at like a dance or something where there's kids there, I'll get my bass player to sing a couple tunes, and I'll go down and dance with the kids. And it's so fun, and I love that.
So how many siblings do you have?
I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay. All right.
Pretty big families.
Yeah. I'm like 11. Wow. That's,
Yeah.
Almost 4 apiece.
An auntie since I was 6 years old.
Since how old?
6.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm the youngest. Like my oldest siblings are quite a bit older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Like my oldest brother is a lot older. My sister's quite a bit older, and then my other brother, we're closer in age. But so I've been an auntie since I was a little kid. So some of my nieces and nephews are kind of like my cousins, which is pretty cool.
So, okay. I ask this question, but I'm going to pose it in a different way because you give me a really good idea of how to do that. If one of your nieces came up to you and said, Auntie Alecia, I want to get into country music.
Yeah.
What would you tell her, knowing what you know now?
Well, what I would say, and I'm very close with one of my nieces. I'm close with all of them, but one of them especially. I would say, you know what, always be true to yourself, be true to your heart. Don't let anyone tell you how you should dress or act or what you should sing or what you should sing about. Always be true to yourself and true to your heart. Stay true to your morals, true to your core values. And I would always say, follow your dreams, always follow your dreams, but know that it's going to take hard work. Know that there could be some sacrifices involved. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. And one thing that I tell my students a lot is, sometimes they'll get discouraged learning a new song. And I say, you know what, everyone has to practice. I still practice. I mean, you're never done learning, right?
Right.
And so I always say it takes a lot, but once you learn it, it is so worth it. And so I would just encourage her or whoever is asking me to work hard and just go for it. Believe in yourself. And also not to just take no for an answer. Like sometimes, like someone's not going to like your music. Someone might be like, no, I don't like your music. And then the next 10 people do, and so you can't base it all on other people's opinions. You have to really have that belief in yourself and have confidence and be doing it for the right reasons. Because there are some people that do it just because they want to be famous. And that's definitely not the right reason. So do it because it's your passion and it's what you love and what you cannot live without.
That's great advice. I mean, especially what you said there at the end about, some people want to do it for the wrong reasons, so to speak. Now here's this question. I usually ask this and I do it in two different ways. Okay. It's kind of like the identical question in a way, but I'm going to ask, I think is the hardest part first. Okay. We get in our DeLorean with the 2.4 gigawatts and we zoom off to the future and it's 10 years and you are on you're on the bus getting ready to or you're in the planning stages of your first huge arena tour. Like, Shania Twain big, and you get to handpick 2 people, bands, individuals to open for you. Who are you going to go to and say, we're going on this arena tour and I want you to join me?
That is a tough one. So I've always been kind of like one for the underdog. Like I've always been, I don't know, just someone, for me, I would pick people that I know have been working at it hard for a long time.
Right.
And, I've been working at it hard for a long time. And I know the feeling of sometimes wondering, like, are things going to happen? And so I would probably pick a couple of friends, like whether they're fellow writers or artists who I know have been working at it for a long time and just haven't had that break yet.
Right.
And I would give them that chance. And that would be an amazing feeling to be able to do that for someone.
Yeah. And I have to give credit where credit's due. My wife is actually the one that came up with these 2 questions. Because what I do is I take that question and I flop it around because now somebody comes up to you and they say, Alecia, I want you to go on my arena tour. Who is the one artist that you would jump on without a thought and go, yes, practically before it's out of their mouth?
I think right now, in the times that we're living in, anybody, I'd be like, yep, I'm there. I'm like, I don't care.
Okay. Pandemic aside, this thing even screws up my show. It's like, come on.
Pandemic aside, in all seriousness, someone that I've always dreamed of opening for because I grew up listening to her is Shania. I grew up listening to her and she puts on these huge shows and she does these massive arena tours. So she is somebody that I would love to open for. And someone kind of more current who's like really been touring a lot lately or before the pandemic who I would love to open for is Miranda Lambert because she is so, like, I love her music. My band and I do a lot of her. We cover a lot of her songs. And she's just so cool. And I think she's so supportive of other women and other female artists. And I love that. Like, I'm all about like women lifting up other women and, just kind of being there for each other. And don't get me wrong, there's a ton of male artists that I love and look up to, male artists and writers. But I think Miranda, I think her tour would be so fun because she just seems like such a fun person too. And really down to earth. I don't think that she would have like an ego or an attitude. I think she would just be really fun to hang out with
Right.
and open for. So
And a lot of people can be catty sometimes, and I don't see her being that. I see her being just as supportive because she speaks out a lot about women in country music and in support of women in country music, as women will do. I mean, and guys, there's a lot of guys that speak out for women in country music. I've been working in country music radio for 12 years, or longer. And I have seen how, to me, women get slighted by the fact that they don't get a lot of airplay.
Right.
Be it whatever the reason, and I've always been told, well, women don't like to hear women on the radio. So if a woman comes on, they're going to change the channel. I don't buy that. And I can promise you a man came up with that saying. So I think it's just really, I think that would be an awesome tour. I've seen Miranda live several times, and she just, the energy she puts in, and I could see after, like before you go on, I could see you and her. And if there's another opener, you guys are all in a room and you're, like, you're just pre-gaming, getting your game face on, and she's singing, you just go out there and do it, and just knock your socks off type of thing.
Totally. Yeah, I think that would be such a blast. I've opened up for a few people up here in Canada, and one that I got to open for is the Bellamy Brothers, and they're like legendary. So that was really fun. My band and I had a blast, and they were like the nicest guys. They were so cool. After I came off stage, they were backstage and they were like, great job, dear. And that was so good. And they just shook my hand. They were like so gentle natured and so nice. And their band was really kind. And we've had some great opportunities in Canada, my band and I opening for acts up here, Canadian acts and American acts. But yeah, it'd be something else to open for someone like Miranda. That would be next level.
That it would. Now, I probably should say this because I work in terrestrial radio during the day, so I'm like really going to get myself in trouble if my boss is watching this. But I listen to Sirius XM. Okay, I have Sirius in my truck, and I honestly listen a lot to the Canadian Country Channel because I mean there's some great artists in Canada. And a few of them have filtered into the US, but for whatever reason, not enough.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, and so as a Canadian artist, what do you see the difference between country music in the US and country music in Canada? What keeps that gap open? Why has that not closed up more?
That's a great question. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities. We have a great country music scene up here in Canada, and a lot of good stuff going on up here. And a lot of us Canadians that go to Nashville and either move there or spend extended periods of time down there. And honestly, I think a big part of it is just the fact that it's two separate countries, and the border, is a big part of it, because I know myself, I would have moved down there years ago. The whole work visa thing and everything, it's tricky to make a go of it down there on a musician's visa.
Right.
And whereas if you're American, you can just move there and get any kind of job, right? And but as a Canadian, you have to be on a special type of visa to be able to live down there. So honestly, I think if we were one big country, if it wasn't the border issue, I think that I could see Canadian and American country being more merged kind of as one.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it, honestly, is just kind of the limitations of being able to move down there. Because we have very similar styles. I mean, I think Canadian country maybe has a little bit different sound at times, but overall, I'd say it's pretty similar. And like you had said earlier, country music has so many subgenres now.
Right. From what I've heard on the Canadian Country Music Channel, that I've noticed a lot about Canadian country music is it has a lot to me of the like 90s, 2000s transition sound to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of I mean, there are some that are like the pop country, you know, like the Kelsey Ballerini vibes or even Carly Pierce, you know, things like that. But I mean, you've got like Tennille Towns, isn't she from Canada?
She
Okay.
is from Alberta. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she's kind of got that, but still, when you listen to her music, she's still got that little, like I said, 90s to 2000s transition. You know, it's not a lot of the steel guitar and the feel like you're, you know, if you're wearing tennis shoes, you're out of place because you need to have your boots on type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, I know with Canadian country radio, they have a certain, um, parameter. They have to play a Canadian country radio station has to play, I think it's 60% Canadian country artists, or is it higher than that?
No, I think it's only 30% CanCon.
I thought it was a lot higher than that. Wow.
It's 30%, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll go in the middle and we'll call it 45. There we go. 45%. Now we know what we're talking about. But I mean, in the US, they don't have that. You know, there's no particular percentage of American artists you have to play because we have artists from all over.
Yes.
I mean, literally around the world.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I really like I got to interview one Canadian artist, and you wouldn't think with a show called Before Nashville, I would have interviewed this guy, but Corey Marks.
Oh yeah.
He's actually, the song that he's known for is a rock song.
Yeah.
You know, but if you've never listened to his album, that's all. Listen to his album, and his heart. He loves country music. Yeah. And you know, I've listened to, I was graced to get a vinyl copy of his album, and I've listened to that. And outside of Outlaws and Outsiders, and he's got a song in there with Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm that even it sounds country. I mean, you know, she's got stuff with Eric Church, for crying out loud. So, you know, so I think there's a lot of great country music in Canada that we need to be putting out, you know, and
absolutely.
And even one of the big things, you know, with the show itself and the whole tagline of introducing the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today, you know, you and the other artists that I interview shy of, like Corey Marks. Okay. And he's not heard on American or Canadian country radio. It's more rock radio.
Right.
But you guys are not the ones that when I turn the radio on and I hear your song and then I run into Walmart and I do my grocery shopping and I come out and I get back in the truck and I turn the radio on and I hear your song again, you know, it's not the independents that are going to get that. And that's what I don't like. I mean, I think we kind of, you know, there's so many things in there that I could complain about all day long with radio, but you know, nobody's going to listen to me. So, you know, I've got friends I can share it with that people will listen to. So that's what I normally do. But I mean, is that kind of, I mean, do you feel that way that there needs to be, for whatever reason, country music, it just like with women, it doesn't look at independence. And I don't understand why, because I mean, and I'll say it this way between you and I, but there's people watching. I've heard from independents that are better than some of the top-notch artists or what they consider top-notch artists. Just saying. I ain't mentioning no names. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely, as an indie artist, it's definitely tough. You know, it's tough to make those breakthroughs, especially on major market stations. I've got a lot of support up here in the secondary market stations, which has been so amazing. And, you know, there's some stations up here that are incredible to indie artists and just always doing everything they can for us, which all of us indies are so grateful for. It is really hard to break into the major market. And it's almost like you almost have to be signed, So, yeah, it is definitely a tough thing. And that's why I tell people, like, if you're not passionate about music and you're not doing it for the love of it, then like, don't, don't go there, because it's not easy. It's tough, and you get told no more times than you get told yes sometimes. But you just have to keep going. And I do all my own radio tracking when I release songs. So I've built some really great relationships at radio, and you have to build a thick skin when you're doing your own tracking, because you get all kinds of feedback. So sometimes the feedback is awesome, and sometimes the feedback is not, or sometimes the feedback is hard to take, or, most people are really nice. Most people are great, but sometimes you get someone who's, not as kind, or, whatever. And, so you really have to have a thick skin, but I love doing my own tracking. I find that I've built those relationships, and I love, meeting people and reaching out and chatting with people. And I enjoy doing the business end of things. And as an indie, you kind of have to, you kind of wear all those different hats as an indie artist. So a big part of it is that business end and the radio end of things. But yeah, so when I say I'm thankful for the stations that are supportive, like, that's an understatement. I can't even say how thankful I am for those stations.
So if someone wanted to find you, where do they get more information about you?
Yeah, so my website, aleciamusic.com, has, lots of stuff up on there, my bio and a lot of different things. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I love to connect with people. So I always tell people, follow me, reach out, send a friend request, send a message. I always get back to people as best as I can, and love to connect. And my music is on all the streaming platforms and everywhere where you get your music. So definitely tell people to check it out, and hopefully follow my YouTube page and my Spotify, and just really working at building that fan base.
Yeah, definitely follow, subscribe to Alecia's YouTube, because when she puts something new up, of course, if you subscribe, you're going to get a notification, and you definitely want those. So go check her out on all the streaming platforms. Go check her out on her social media. I know there's pictures of Cash up there. I do tend to social media stalk whenever I have somebody I'm going to be interviewing. And so, but go check her out, go listen to her music, check out her bio, and read about her and learn about her, and become a fan. Shoot her a message and let her know. I mean, if you connect to Household, then tell her. I mean, I think a lot of times for an artist, that feedback from somebody that connects to the song is just as important as, it's just as welcome as 1,000 downloads of the song.
Yes.
Because that you've touched somebody.
Absolutely. That is, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that is huge when someone reaches out and says, this song of yours helped me through this hard time, or this song of yours I can relate to. And it's good to hear that there's somebody else who's been through that. Like, it makes it, people maybe realize that they're not alone in something. Right. And when a song can do that, and it's a song that I've written and a song that I've, put out there, that means the world as a writer and an artist.
That's awesome. So be sure to go check out Alecia, follow her, again, subscribe to her YouTube channel. And while you're looking at her YouTube channel, just flip over to b4Nashville, subscribe to my channel as well, because when I have new artists coming on, it'll all pop up right there. Same way you can follow both of us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter. I actually have Twitch. I still don't know why. I even have TikTok, and I still don't know why. But go follow us and just check it out. We really appreciate it. Again, b4Nashville is being brought to you by Go Tuners. It's the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians alike. And it's just a great tuner. Go check it out. GoTuners.com. Alecia, thank you for coming on tonight. Stay warm. Okay, please.
Yes.
Cash, you keep her company and keep her out of trouble, buddy, because I'm sure somebody has to sometimes.
Yeah, he's a good little dude, my little special.
There you go. All right, Alecia, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.